All right, welcome to Stephen King's Saturday Night, where this week we're looking at Stand By Me. Yes, and believe it or not, this is a first time watch. Yes, I know, bad Scotty. But, yeah. And as you'll see, I'm going to be doing more viewing of more 80s films. I'm got an 80s kick going on. I'm going to buy some more. I got a special... Well, let's just say Pick 10 is coming back. Okay? Pick 10 is coming back. We'll say that. Alright? So, Stand By Me is a 1986 film directed by Rob Reiner, starring Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, Kiefer Sutherland, with cameo from John Cusack as the older brother Denny, the older brother of Will Wheaton's character Rudy. And it's based on a Stephen King short story, called The Body. They didn't want to call it The Body because it sounds like a horror movie by Stephen King, and that's not what it was, so they called it Stand By Me after the song. And yes, the song does make an appearance at the end, during the credits, and they have a music video for it that came out, gotta be late 80s, early 90s, because Will Wheaton and River Phoenix are in it, but they're older, so it's gotta be late 80s after the movie came out, because they're a little bit older, so yeah, give it a little late 80s at least. And yes, the whole joke with Jerry O'Connell, the fat kid grew up and married Rebecca Romaine. So he also went to the sliding machine and went to Parallel Worlds for 4 seasons, for 4 years, and then disappeared and looked like someone else and then lost his consciousness. Anyway, and Will Wheaton ended up on the Starship Enterprise. Shut up, Wesley. And River Phoenix was Indiana Jones. And then he died, unfortunately. And Corey Feldman went on to slay vampires and dream my little dream and get a license to drive. So Kiefer Sutherland also became a vampire, fought against Corey Feldman. And John Cusack was better off dead until he got a hot tub time machine in room 1408. High fidelity joke. I couldn't put that in there. And Rob Reiner found his Princess Bride. Which came out the year after this, I think. He directed another Stephen King movie. I can't remember what it was, though. Misery, right? He did Misery. Yeah, he'll do Misery. He would find his Princess Bride, but that would only lead him to Misery. So Stand By Me tells the story of 4 friends: Rudy, Chris, Vern, and Corey Feldman, I forget his name, as they trek across country or so to find a dead body that they hear is located at a certain location. And with that premise, you would think this is a Stephen King story. Stephen King is known more for horror, right? Well, he did The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption, which will both be featured on this show, don't worry. Yeah, it's a Stephen King story. It's very different, and I like it. And what I like is that this is an 80s movie in 1986, arguably at the height of the 80s craze, but it's set in 1959, and thus the clothing, the attitudes, the hairstyles, and the music all reflect that. You know, aforementioned Stand By Me, but you got like Come Go With Me. Well, I love you, darling. Come and go with me, then you with me. Way beyond the sea, down, 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 dooby 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 down, dooby down. You know, that song. Playing in other ones. It kind of reminded me of Happy Days a little bit with that music playing in the background. Except for with every scene transition, you don't have as you did in Happy Days, but kind of reminded me of that kind of time, you know. And much like Stephen King stories, everyone is just terrible to them. So, at least 3 of them. So you have, I think 2 of them have older brothers in a gang with Kiefer Sutherland. And so I was reading this. It was after the scene. There was a scene where River Phoenix's character, gets into an argument with Kiefer Sutherland, and he holds him down and holds a lit cigarette to his face like he's going to do something to him. There's another bully, played by Philip from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, standing there. And it wasn't until after the scene I was looking at the cast list, and it turns out the kid, Eyeball, or whatever his name is Chris's brother. So Chris's older brother is letting his friend hold a lit cigarette up to his brother's face? Bullshit. Whether you're in a gang of bullies or not, that is your fucking brother. Okay? You do not let your friend do that. That is bullshit. Everyone in this story is, besides these 4 kids, are terrible people. Like, Rudy's parents ignore him and favor his older brother. Even after he dies, they still ignore him. You know, there's terrible people. There's a teacher. There's a story that Chris tells towards the end about how, you know, he wants to live up to his family's reputation. So he stole some money, some lunch money, but he gave it back and he told the teacher. The teacher kept it for herself, and then Chris still got in trouble for it because money was never returned because the teacher took the money and ran off with it. Yeah, that's terrible. I did like the story that Rudy told, and he's an aspiring writer, and we find out the narration is that he's writing this story. An older version of him, played by Richard Dreyfuss. They wanted a couple other actors, but the voice didn't mesh right. I don't remember the first one, but Michael McKean was the other one. And it said his voice didn't work as a narrator either. And I agree, Richard Dreyfuss is a very good narrator. They even brought him back for a gag. I believe it was still him. Because I didn't catch this till the end of the film. But in the Clerks animated series, I don't know if I mentioned this in my review, but in the Clerks animated series, there's an episode that's all about 80s stuff. And at the end, future Jay narrates, and I think it was Richard Dreyfuss that did the voice, come back and do that. And it was a nod to Stand By Me, so that's pretty cool. But Rudy tells this story about this guy they called Lardass. It's a story, this kid, I don't remember his name, I just remember Lardass. He enters this contest, this pie eating contest, and he's going to get revenge. So they start the pie eating contest, and there's this one guy, everyone's meeting him, they're going, Lardass, Lardass, Lardass. And there's like 4 or 5 of them, and one guy goes, you better not think about winning, Lardass. And so he starts doing the contest, and he's just going to town. Next. Even though none of them actually finished the entire pie, which I don't get the... I'm sitting there going, wait, they're not even finishing the entire pie. What's the rules here? I thought you had to finish the entire pie. They just... Next! And it's like, wait, what? You have to finish what's on the inside, not the crust. They're not specific, but it's a story that he's telling. So then he cuts back. He said he wanted to get revenge. So before he came out, and they go back, he drank a whole bottle of castor oil, bleh, and then a raw egg, bleh, and then while he was eating the pie, eventually he started pretending that the pie was something nasty. I don't remember what it was. And then just threw up on everyone. Threw up on them, and everyone else started throwing up. The only problem is, he and the contestants are throwing up reddish, purplish goop because they were eating the pies. But when the people in the audience start to throw up, they also throw up the purplish, reddish goop, which makes no sense because they weren't eating the pies. So they should be like a beige, off yellow, orange kind of puke because they didn't eat the pies. So to me, it didn't. I know it's a story and it's being exaggerated, but it didn't feel real. As it's supposed to be like people throwing up, they wouldn't throw up the same colored throw up as the people who ate the pies. Alright? I'm just saying. But I did laugh at that story. They sing the theme song to, I believe it's Have Gun Will Travel. They sing that song. The theme song to that, which I've heard of, I've never seen the show, but I think that's what Have Gun Will Travel. Do, 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 do. But yeah, it's just them walking for most of the movie, but this movie's got heart. All four of the main leads have chemistry. And I guess, from what I read, Wheaton and River Phoenix were friends in real life, I guess. And then they did a commentary for this with Rob Reiner. I only saw the beginning, but and it's Rob Reiner, Will Wheaton, and Corey Feldman, and they're talking about their personal life. Will Wheaton's like, "Oh, I have 2 kids, and they're in college," and Corey Feldman's like, "Oh, wait a minute, you're not old enough to have 2 kids that old." And he goes, "Well, I married a woman who had 2 children already, and then they're 19 and 21. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're not young enough." And he's like, "Well, I'm only 25. I aged down." And it's Corey Feldman's like in his 40s, but I think he's like 50 now. Actually, I think he just turned 50. So yeah, but Will Wheaton was younger than them. This was a while ago. He was 38 at that point, so he's probably older now. But yeah, the performances in this are pretty good. There are points where the characters have to break down. Like there's a scene where Corey Feldman's dad is called a loony by this guy who owns a junkyard, and he freaks out and he's like, "Well, my dad stormed the beach in Normandy and he served in the war." He breaks down, and then River Phoenix breaks down. Chris, he breaks down after telling the story about about the teacher, and then even I think Rudy breaks down. So yeah, it just very good performances throughout. Even by far, I think one of the best scenes in this film is when they eventually find the body, and then Kiefer Sutherland and his gang show up, and like, "Well, we're gonna take responsibility for this. We found it. We know about it. It's our body." And like, "No, we found it." And then Will Wheaton pulls out a gun. Rudy pulls out a gun, and he's like, "Suck on my big," or whatever he said. He's like, "Suck my big one," or something like that. "Suck on my big one." And so he's holding the gun, and they're like, "You don't have the balls to do it." "No?" And he clicks it back. He's like, "What, are you going to shoot all of us?" He goes, "No, just you." And even I'm sitting there going, that's all it would take. Shoots him, everyone else is going to scatter. Because they'll know he means business. Then there'll be 2 dead bodies, right? Makes a lot of sense. And eventually they back off because you don't know. And then you get the line from Chris, "Suck my big one." "You got a big one? Biggest in the state," or whatever. Fantastic movie. I really enjoyed this movie. Subtitles in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, and Korean, and Thai. So, for that. And audio, English, French. You can watch this in English, French, Spanish, or Portuguese. So, just so you know. Stand by. All the music videos on the DVD, and I searched it on YouTube. What else is on this? Talent files, bonus trailers, isolated music score. So I think they just have one where it's just the score. I think director Rob Reiner's commentary. So I don't think it's not the one that's on YouTube. Exclusive featurette, Walking the Tracks, The Summer of Stand By Me, including interviews with Stephen King and Rob Reiner. Stephen King himself even said that this is one of his best adaptations of his work. So, that's something, but then again, he hates The Shining, which is a good film. I can't say anything about an adaptation of his work, but they probably stuck true to it because unlike his other works, I don't think maybe there's anything like they took some stuff out of it, certain things. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean, but, and it changed the ending of The Shining, and that's become sort of obsessive, that ending, because they used the ending of The Shining in the TV version, and then they even used it for Dr. Sleep, which was not the ending of that book, but they're so concerned about getting that ending on the screen and in a version connected to The Shining that, yeah. But this movie's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. You know what? Screw it. Stand By Me is going to the moon, baby. It's a fantastic film. I wouldn't mind watching this again, and I might even try to track down the Blu-ray. This movie is fantastic. So what are your thoughts on Stand By Me? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.